Hello, welcome. You are listening to Dr. Sushma Singh. Today in Unit 29, Social Movements, Meanings and Dimensions, we are continuing our topic, Historical and Social Context of Conceptualization. Social movements in the developing countries were manifested in different socio-political contexts. Anti-colonial workers and the peasant movement were the dominant pattern of collective action with a wide political connotation inbuilt in these movements, while the anti-colonial movements aimed at the liberation of the colonized countries from the imperial powers. The workers and the peasant movements were directed against the oppressive capitalists and landowners of these countries. Significantly, the nationalist spirit of the cross section of the population was the most appealing force in the anti-colonial movement, while the workers and the peasant movements were mostly organized based on the Marxian philosophy of class struggle. In the post-World War II period, success stories of workers and the peasant movement in the then Soviet Union, China, Vietnam, and Cuba had became the guild spirit of the workers and peasant movements in the developing countries. Social movements of various forms have got wider legitimacy in the political culture in the societies. In a state of increasing poverty, illiteracy, corruption, and sharpening class inequality, a vast section of the population have accepted organized collective action as a mode of protest and survival. However, in the wake of socio-political transition, globalization, and introduction to new economic order in these countries, the forms of collective action have undergone a qualitative change. Now let us move to the next point, change in perception since late 1950s. The established social and the political order of Europe and America received a severe jolt in late 1950 and 1960s with the vehement outburst of the black civil rights students, women's, peace, gay and environment movements. The hitherto existing theoretical perspective, however, were unable to explain these movements, which marked a sharp departure from the earlier organized movement of labor and the working class. These departures were largely viewed in terms of the emergence of new social actors and categories due to the fundamental shift in social structure and the emergence of post-industrial society. The post-industrial movement engaged different actors, different loci of conflict and different issues than those of the industrial society. Even at the empirical level, these social movements exhibited new characteristics and new ideas. Hence, there was a need to move beyond the existing framework of explanation. Ryan observes these phenomena as new social movements being potential bearers of new social interest. To him, it is through the process of collective will formation that social movements came to recognize themselves as collective actors with a historical project. The European tradition tried to discover a process of new knowledge and collective identity formation in these actions. Here, the most common approach has been to analyze the social movement to be the carriers of political projects and historical actions. Thus, in the European tradition, social movement is seen in terms of structures and long-term processes. There is a concern for distinguishing the new from the old social movement. For the European sociologist, it is the political meaning of the movement that is of utmost significance. For example, Alberto Molucci sees social movements in primarily symbolic terms and identity formation as a kind of dramaturgy. Social movements make power visible and they challenge the dominant meaning system or symbols of contemporary everyday life. He talks about the issues of identity in social movement in great length. We shall discuss this issue in the next 2 units of this blog. The American sociologists have, however, seen knowledge and identity as non empirical objects. The knowledge component of a social movement to them provide the issue or ideologies around which movements mobilize resources or socialize individuals. Since the 1960s onward, the collective behavior approach is being contested by the resource mobilization theorists to emphasize on the effectiveness of the movement organization. As an alternative to the collective behaviorism, the theory of resources mobilization has emerged in the American tradition to explore why some movements are more successful than others. Telly, for example, identifies collective action in terms of the pursuit of common interest, which is typical of social all movements. This approach assumes that collective actions are related to the specific opportunity structures. Here, importance is given to the rationality of human action, whereby the participants in the social movement calculate the cost and benefit of their participatory action in collective mobilization. In this approach, social movements are seen either as the creation of entrepreneurs skillful in the manipulation or mobilization of social resources, or as the playing out the social tensions and conflicts. Thus, the motivation of the actors is seen as rational economic action. The resource mobilization theory indeed aims to interpret those sets of social movements that are the visible parts of the American social reality in management terms. It is linked to the policy problem of containment. The social movements in the developing countries have conventionally been conceptualized either from the Marxian or from the functionalist perspective. However, the proliferation of the new social movement, manifestation of new form of collective action, resurgence of the violence in the new context, and the articulation of new forms of collective actions in these societies have generated enormous interest among the social scientists, policy planners, and social activists for the study of social movements. However, there has been a tendency to analyze the social movements of these societies following the theoretical tools widely used in the Western society. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.